Hello, this is Jeannie from Metal Dollhouse Rescue. Welcome back to my workshop. Tonight we're going to finish up part 2, rehabbing the Marx pet shop. All right, I have got the floor done. I went ahead and touched up that green color, put some little white dots on there, filled in the lines that were missing. Over here there were just a few brownish spots that had a little bit of a little brown rust type or brown stain. Touched all those up. I am done with the floor. I think it looks really, really good. Okay, about the only thing else we have to do is touch up some of the white here. There's a little bit of white here and there. So I'm going to mix up, again, a nice cream colored white and go through and touch up white on all of these. And the only other place that I thought could use a little paint was right in here. And it'd be hard to see, but part of that graphic's gone. There's a little bit of paint gone right at the end of my fingernail. And it's, let me get my little paintbrush here and I'll show you how big the area is. It's about that little area there is dark, and you see where it's green here? I put a little bit of marker on there and tried to see what that would do. Well, it's the wrong color green. So this should be like a dark gray to kind of match this can over here, or a light gray, and over here some dark shadow. So I'm going to touch that up too with some dark gray. Otherwise, I think we're going to be done. Oh, I've got to work on this side too. This has got a lot of real light, fine, like rust or something. It's the paint is gone in little tiny areas. So I'll be touching that up too. That's probably going to take a little bit longer. Let's get the white done first, then we'll work on that, and then we're going to have this painted. Okay, I mixed up my buttercream paint, which is a little bit of brown, and then I'm going to fill in all these little spots. And I'll probably do that thing where I kind of put the paint on there and then wipe it off with my finger. That keeps it from being kind of just a flat paint spot. It just kind of blends those little brown spots in. All right, let's work on that a little bit. So when I've got these little raised rough brown spots like this, they're almost like rust, but they're not, reddish. They're just kind of brownish and they're a little rough to the touch. I just put a little paint on them and then tap, tap, and that paints that brown and turns it, makes it like invisible. So I'm going to go through this whole thing and do that. And I'll start with these light colored blocks. And then I'll mix up some color that's a little more, a little darker brown. And then I'll do all those. And then there's some gray I'll do that with. But all of them, rather than doing fully painting those, I'm just going to try to paint those little brown areas, then tap them with my finger to blend them in so that brown is covered up, so that looks new. So I don't know, can you see how this one looks a lot better than it did? Okay, I'm going to work on this a little while. Now when you're doing this technique, it's helpful to have your paint a little thinner. So I did add a drop of water to my palette to make that paint just a little thinner, and that helps that paint just fill in those dark rusty spots. The other thing is you always want to think about what areas can you see when you look at this item when you play with it. And you can see that border along there, but on this piece that was kind of corroded all the way down, and I've already touched up a couple of those bricks along there. You can see how bright that is. So when I paint this piece here, when I correct this one here, I'll wrap that color around the end and make it that gray there also. So that end will all be filled in. And I looked at the other side because it was not nearly as damaged, and that's what they've done there. They've wrapped that color around to right about there, and then this is a solid line of gray. So that's what I will do on this piece too. I'll make that match. There'll be a solid line of gray right here on the inside, and then the rest of these blocks I'll wrap that color around like I've started to do. At this point, I've done the lightest color, the light cream color. That was kind of that buttermilk color. And then I added a little bit of brown to that, make it a little bit of a taupe. And I've done the ones that are kind of a taupe color. Now I've mixed up some gray, some black and white, and I've got gray on my brush, and I'm going to work on these that are gray. But I wanted to point out that these blocks, they have a variety of color in them. So I don't want to paint them solid anyway. I don't want them to be all of a sudden have a solid cream colored block because they're kind of shadowed. So it's been very easy to blend this in by using the light colors I've used so far. The buttermilk color and then a little bit of a taupe color. So let's work on the gray. We're really close to done with this. It's going pretty fast. All right, dear friends, I got that done, and it looks so much better than it did. Look, you cannot see a sign of that corrosion that was on there. And even that end, like I told you, I wrapped that color around and then put a line of gray on the inside, just like the other one was. Now, there is a little bit of rough spot here on the green, but it doesn't show. I'm going to leave that. It looks really fine. I am just really, really tickled with this. Okay, the only other thing I need to do is fix that little shelf right there. And I've got my dark gray out here, so let me just put a little bit of paint on that. All right, I filled that in with gray just to make it shadowy. I put a little bit of light gray here, like where this can was, the top of it. And the rest of this I just filled in with dark shadowy gray. And then a little bit over here, the same thing over here. And now only you and me and everybody on the internet that watches this knows that we lost a little tiny bit of graphic right there. And I know you guys won't tell. Anyway, looks really good. I think we are done painting. Before I get done painting, I forgot I still have a couple little spots here on the roof that I want to put a little red on. That black area, the red paint is gone, and maybe along here. So there's a couple of spots I'm going to fix that up before I quit painting. But there's one more thing I wanted to tell you. I was reviewing my little videos from the other night, and this is something I really have not mentioned before. This is the piece that I finished up painting. Actually, it was like last night. But when you look at it straight on, it looks so much better than it did. All those little dark flecks are gone. They're actually covered up with paint. But when you turn it sideways, you can see those more matte areas. Those are the spots I put a little paint on. Or they could be a little bit of crazing from the original paint. But I can tell you a lot of those are the little bit of paint dots. So this paint is a matte paint. And when you turn it sideways, you can sometimes see, well, you can often see where I actually touched it up. And the same thing is true on the floor. Let's look at it. Now, there are a couple of corrections here. You can see that matte area over here. I want to tell you, when you put this building together, those are not noticeable because you're looking at it more flat on and the furniture covers some of that. It will look very good when it's assembled. But if that bothers you, you can put some Mod Podge on there, which can help. Sometimes you can still see the Mod Podge also. If you turn sideways, it'll be a little more raised. Usually I only Mod Podge a large area. Now this has got quite a little bit of paint daubs on it. So I maybe could Mod Podge it. If I did, I would probably outline, I'd probably do it right on those squares. So if you turned it sideways, those instead of being smears, they'd be like little squares of a little bit of Mod Podge. I may do that, but I also may not. Another thing I've seen other people do is spray this with like a Krylon clear. I have never done that. I've not tried it. If I was going to try that, I would try it on the bottom of the bottom. I would do a test spot down here and I would try it, and then I would decide whether or not I like that. But I just wanted to give you an update because I want to do full disclosure for you. So if you do this yourself, you won't be depressed or discouraged and say, well, you know, mine looks like such and such. Well, mine did too. It looks really good straight on, and I can tell you it looks really good assembled. I'm going to polish this yet with polish, and some of those will even fade even a little bit more. But they'll still be noticeable. If you look at it from the side, you'll still be able to see those spots, and you'll see that after I polish it. I'll try to remember to show you again. In the meantime, let's go ahead and get that roof painted. That was quick, easy, and fun to do. Now, if you followed along, I used that original dark red and touched those up. And then when it dried, guess what? As always, it dried a little bit darker than I thought it would. And then I just put a touch more red here on my paint palette. And I went back over those same spots again. Here you can see on my palette, that middle part is more of a bright red than the edge. So then I used my brush in the middle and I went back and put red, a little bit brighter red on top of there, which kind of gives it that highlight low light look, because the rest of these shingles, you can see they're not flat red, they're light red, dark red, kind of a blend, and that those little patches then matched in just with a really perfect color. Looks really good in real life. Okay, I'm going to photograph this. I'll do that off camera and then I'll be back in a minute and we are going to polish it and assemble it. Since I'm set up here to photograph, I thought I'd just do like a quick 30-second reminder. I like to photograph against a blank background. In this case, I've got black foam core board here and here. I'll try to do a nice square picture of this, and I'll try to avoid any reflection from any light in the room. Sometimes I have to move my camera around or my object around to do that. But I'll bring each piece up here and do them one at a time, and I'll do the front and the back. I won't do the back of the floor, but every other piece I will do front and back. And then the idea is to put those in a library so that we would have access to those if anybody would ever need to recreate a wall. Or in this case, you could just almost recreate the whole thing if you wanted. You could print it off and put it on foam core board. Anyway, that's a brief reminder about how to photograph your doll houses, your pieces like this. And I always like to do it when they're apart if I can, just in case we ever need that. All right, I have photographed all of these pieces, and while I have it apart and I photograph them, I measure each piece, and that way we'll have a record of what size this actual building is. I do this for informational purposes and for historical purposes, so if down the road anybody wants to know, we'll have that information and nobody else will have to take theirs apart just to know that stuff. I'm going to polish it now. I like to use this new finish polish. This was recommended to me by my husband, who does a lot of automotive work, and he likes this product. He had it in his garage. He donated it to me. I think I'm going to have to get a new bottle. This one's about empty. Give it a good shake. You'll see me wipe it on all these pieces, top and bottom both, front and back, and then I'll go back with a microfiber cloth and wipe it all off, and then we'll look at the final shiny product. All right, I've got them all done. I even remembered to get this guy out and get him done. I'd forgotten him the first time around. I'll give that just a few minutes to dry. You might notice I applied that with just a paper towel, which I'm going to throw away now. And then when I wipe it off, I'll wipe it off with a microfiber cloth. And I've got one right here handy to use. But I'm just going to give that a few minutes. It will dry to a very light haze on there, and then we'll be ready to wipe it off. Alright, dear friends, I've got it wiped off. It's ready to assemble, but I've got a couple things I want to comment on. First, I wanted to tell you, I was going to show you that wall. This is the wall that I did not paint, and you can see how it's pretty evenly shiny all over. The wall that I did put quite a bit of paint on, still when you turn it in the light sideways, some of it's shiny and some of it's still got those, you can see those matte marks from that paint. See them? But nevertheless, straight on it looks really, really good, and it does have some shine to it, those spots where I didn't paint. So I am still in love with it. Now, I noticed something interesting. First, I want to tell you, I like that new finish polish, but some of my Dollhouse friends use other brands of car polish, and they all seem to work very well. So if you have another one on hand, you might want to try it. I did not do a test spot on this. Remember, I told you a lot of times, if it's a house you've not done before or a chemical you've not used before, you might test it on the bottom. I did not do that, and I probably should have, but I've used that new finish on a number of houses, and I've used it on Marx houses and never had a problem. But it might not hurt to do a test first on something that you've not worked on before. But I did find something interesting. As much as I worked on this house, I did not realize there's a spot here for a chimney, which is interesting because this end wall, let's see, is it this one or this one? Let me think. It's this one. There's no chimney painted on the outside there, so it's interesting, but there are slots there for a chimney, see them? And so I got out, I've got kind of a chimney collection. I got mine out. I'll show you. Here's a T-cone. This is from a Marx Colonial. This is from a Marx Tin Soldier. This is from a Marx, this is actually a reproduction made out of paper. This is from a Marx, Marxy Mansion, Marxy House. Here's another Marx Colonial. And this, I just cannot remember which one that's from. I don't think it's even a Marx house. At any rate, I tried all of those. None of those line up with the holes. So I'm going to have to check and see. First, I'll check my notes and see, did this originally, when I got it, did it have the chimney with it? It could be. I've got it stored here in my workroom. I'll check my records. If not, I'll check one of our reference guides and try to see what the original chimney looked like. I presume there was one there. Maybe there was something else there, but it looks like more like a chimney. These almost fit, but not quite. They're a little bit short. It needs to be just a little bit longer to fit there in the front. So I'll find out what it originally came with and see if I can mock one up or what. I don't know. Maybe I've got it here. I'll look somewhere. But I've got a nice collection and none of them fit. Look at all my chimneys. Look, none of them fit. Okay, let's get it assembled. There it is. Ta-da! Now, I have put these replacement windows in here. These are the ones I made for my Babyland nursery, and they've got little magnets on the corners. I went ahead and left those screens in that somebody else had added, and I kind of like those. I think I'm going to leave them, but I also kind of like the looks of these replacement windows, and I think you could have both. A real house or building could very well likely have windows as well as screens if I ever want to slip those windows out of there. But it came out really cute. Now here's my latest idea that I talked about in one of my recent videos. I don't bend down all the tabs because I know that one of these days somebody's going to have to take this house apart and ship it maybe, or it could ship whole. So I have just bent down enough of the tabs to keep it solid enough that I can pick it up and move it. But you'll see that a lot of the tabs are not bent down. See there on the side, I left those out because those tabs, you can only bend them so often and then they break. So I'm leaving those in case I ever want to sell this house or ship it. I'm going to leave those leave those not bent down tight, but otherwise it looks perfect. And you remember I told you that that floor where it's not as shiny would look fine, and it does look fine. I love this. Now I've got a few little furnishings for this, and I think what I'll do is take this downstairs where there's better lighting, do one final video to kind of show off how cute it is, and I'll find those little belongings that go inside the little furniture and a few of the animals that I have. But otherwise we're going to call this done. I still need to find out what happened with the chimney. What? Is there a chimney or not? I don't know. Anyway, I'm in love with it. And I want to say super thank you to the person that helped me to get this. Somebody saw it locally in their flea market and asked if I was interested, and I said yes, and they helped me out by buying it, shipping it to me, and I was able to reimburse them. So thank you again so much. I love our Dollhouse groups. I hope you will join us, and I hope you will subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much. Now remember, you've got a friend in Iowa, and you've got lots of friends in our Dollhouse group, so I hope you will join us.